We have the pleasure of having a chat with Sam Carpenter from the Karuwhā Trust, a registered New Zealand charity that seeks to engage Aotearoa New Zealand in a conversation about identity and history. Sam, thanks for taking time with us.
Kia ora. Yeah, good to be here.
Kia ora, Sam. Pure here, mate. Look,
Kia ora.
I'm going to cut straight to the chase. He Pākehā koe, you're not a Māori. So tell me while you're sitting in this chair and tell me a bit about what you're doing. It sounds awesome.
No, it's been quite a ride. As it happens, the chair I'm sitting in is in Wellington, but usually over the past 18 years, I've pretty much been up in Waitangi every year, but unfortunately not this year. But basically started back in 2000 when I took a trip up to the commemorations with a couple of brothers in my little green Ford hatchback, and we camped at Te Marae with a whole heap of Māori, really.
Yeah.
I think we were very few Pākehā there.
So you were like the coloured kids in the whole thing?
Yeah, we were the coloured kids. We just had a whale of a time.
What was that like?
I suppose I've been prepped a little bit because I'd been studying law and history at university at Tāmaki Makaurau.
Yep.
And so, I sort of knew something of the protest movement and the history of the place, obviously in the treaty. But there's nothing like going to the place and just experiencing the place where history actually happened and where history's still happening. So that's, I suppose, that was one of the motivations for it, to just get up there and see what it was all about, and it was fantastic.
Hey, Sam, that first experience of Waitangi, I remember visiting Waitangi a number of years ago when I was on my wedding anniversary. We went to Paihia for our anniversary, and we made the visit to Waitangi. And for me, it felt like there was something spiritual that went on. I don't know why. As a minister, those sort of experiences aren't foreign to me, but I didn't expect to step into that place and feel something deeper, feel something spiritual. Did you have anything like that happen when you stepped onto the marae?
Yes, definitely. Part of the motivation for it was understanding more about the whole connect between the missionary history of New Zealand and the Treaty of Waitangi, which, as I was learning, very intertwined. And the trust that I'm involved with, Karuwhā, 4 Eyes. That's the name of one of the early missionary figures. Actually, he actually ended up translating the Treaty of Waitangi. Those two things are very intertwined, and there's no doubt about it. I have felt that there's the presence there of the past, of those people that have gone before and made those commitments, made those agreements. It sounds quite heavy, but there's a reality to it, and every time I go back, I sort of there's a sort of a deep sense that history is still working there. Yeah, definitely.
And how did you go about deciding, or what made you decide to set up a trust to actually take that further than just your average Kiwi experience of Waitangi and to get yourself really involved in the conversation?
Yeah, well, it was a process already of continuing to go up there. So the next year that I went up, I took a group of people with me in 2001, and so we just kept going up. And then the sort of idea evolved. Why don't we actually put a bit more structure around this? And so formed the charitable trust in 2005, and then started running info stalls at the Lower Marae, where we were sort of conveying some of the things that we'd learned about the story. It's continued to grow. This year we've got over 100 adults up there on a program of things, everything from participating in commemorations to going out to Marsden Cross and being taken through that story by somebody with the knowledge, going on other sort of walks through historic sites. It's grown and grown, I guess more and more people have jumped on board the waka
Awesome.
through the years. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of spending a bit of time with Karuwhā last year when I was up there, and it was awesome. But how has it changed for you? How's the day changed? How are we doing?
How are we doing? Yes, big question. I think, in terms of how the day's changed, I suppose I've noticed since the early 2000s that I guess the level of protest has probably reduced. I think it's become more of a carnival commemorative occasion up there at Waitangi.
I agree.
There's a lot more going on, I think, in that space, especially with the Waitangi National Trust too on the other side, putting on a whole heap of events. And I think that probably reflects that that things have changed in the wider populace and the body politic as it were the last 15 years. Although Ngāpuhi still doesn't have its settlement.
Yes,
a lot of other
from
iwi
up there.
do. So, a lot of other iwi do, and I think that's actually made quite a big difference. There's still issues that attract people to come to Waitangi, and I think in some ways it's right that it continues to attract. It's a place where those things can be aired, and it's always been like that. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit later on because I think that's the bit that most Kiwis are missing, the importance of the ability to protest, to actually express the angst at Waitangi. But for a lot of Kiwis who have never been to Waitangi, never been there on the day, all they see through the media and the news stories that come out is the more angsty stuff. But you've just mentioned, Sam, that it's been changing, that actually some of that stuff has been subsiding, that there's a more of a celebration carnival atmosphere coming about. How has that happened? How has that change been occurring?
Well, I mean, that's quite a sophisticated sociological analysis required for that.
Give it a go.
Why it's all been changing, I mean, I guess I've referred to a few things before in terms of treaty settlements and things. I mean, you still get, there's been oil drilling and issues like that have attracted protest up there, and in terms of how things have really changed, I mean, I think we are. I think we continue to mature. Mm-hmm. It seems a bit trite to say something like that as a nation, but I think it is true in many respects. And I think Waitangi is a good test. What happens at Waitangi is a good test of that. Mm. As to why all that's changing, I think it's a really big question.
We're a very young country, and when you look at Rome and Italy, Germany, all those old European countries, if you look at Aotearoa, we're like a gangly teenager, still developing. And I think Waitangi's is sort of the acne that's, for me, it's starting to get a little clearer. I remember being up there last year and I looked over and I saw these two beautiful little Asian kids with ice creams bigger than them with full-face tāmoko on their face. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's cool. They're cool. And a very tapu thing as far as Māori are concerned, but it just felt right, and they were celebrating and enjoying the day as they should.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I think the younger generation, as a general rule, is actually pretty comfortable with a lot of those cultural aspects, from tāmoko to haka, obviously, to waiata and te reo Māori. But it's important that we keep investing in it, and I guess also understanding, why we're in the state we are in as well. And that's why I think going to places like Waitangi on these commemorative occasions are so important, because I mean I continue to learn. I mean, I'm currently doing a doctorate and trying to understand more of how things changed, how culture changed in the early years, and it's just an ongoing journey of discovery, really.
Sam, obviously, you probably, I would imagine most Kiwis should put a pilgrimage to Waitangi for Waitangi Day on their calendar to do it sometime before they pass away. But in the meantime, if someone is sitting there thinking, okay, how can I mark Waitangi Day as more than a day off, and they might not be going to Waitangi for the day, what can they do to mark the day as something a little more than just a day off?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, pilgrimage to Waitangi, that would certainly be at the top of the list. But, I mean, hey, there's lots of towns and cities around the country now that have their own Waitangi Day commemorations. One's in Auckland and Wellington. I've been to one or two of those as well. And so, I mean, those opportunities are available. I mean, pick up a decent history of New Zealand. Michael King would be a good place to start. Turn on Māori TV. There's lots of ways to actually begin to access the story these days. I don't think there's really any excuse for not actually stopping and actually thinking a bit about where we've come from and where we're at.
I like that. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time, mate. We really appreciate it.